There were days when the headwinds were so heavy, the seas so high, we were forced onto sea anchor. The worst of it being that at times all 16 of us had to share a cabin so oppressive and smelly. We came to think of it for obvious reasons as the gas chamber.
Imagine being out at sea, battling the elements with a single oar. It may sound crazy, but Canadian writer Charlie Wilkins is no stranger to the unthinkable. And this adventure tantalized every bone in the adrenaline junkie's body.
I had walked from Thunder Bay to New York City in the past and traveled with the circus and been out there on ships on the Atlantic writing about them and at the North Pole and et cetera, et cetera. And I'd been crossing back and forth over the Atlantic for years in a plane or whatever, or a ship, and looking down at it. And just the thought that I might have what at the time was planned as a 5-week journey at sea level, amidst the whales and the dolphins and the sharks and the stars at night and the clouds and the sunsets and the sunrise and all. It just really appealed to my very, very long-standing and deep affection and fascination with the planet.
Wilkins, who never swung an oar seriously in his life, begged his way in to join 15 other well-experienced rowers on an attempt to set a record across the Atlantic from Morocco to Barbados. Sailing in an experimental boat with no support vessel, no stored water, no sails, and no motor, there was only one way to look at it, according to Wilkins.
And the whole gist of the moment was, to me, was just the compulsion was to get out there and go and take the risk. And the other question that's sort of in that vein is, what would happen if, rather than sort of constantly protecting ourselves from risk and uncertainty as we add years, we decided instead to embrace risk and juice up on it and go with it. And I've always had a really strong sense that there are rewards to taking some risks, and there are.
The emotional high of being up close with amazing sea life and breathtaking night skies, to the dangerous low of braving the worst storms Mother Nature can deliver, all left an indelible mark on Wilkins.
And when you're out there at sea level, soaked and every second waves going over your head, you are part of this. And I have never been as obsessed as I believe some people are with safety and comfort. I think those things have sometimes gotten in my way of having an interesting experience of the planet.
The crew shift was 2 hours on, 2 hours off for 7 weeks, facing 30-foot waves that at any moment could sweep them away forever. Food rations were depleted and drinking water limited, but there was no turning back. Tempers began to flare, and Wilkins took note.
One afternoon, as the sea raged, Steve and I fell to fighting over pumping out the hulls. It was a low moment that did not get resolved until late that night. But we never rowed together again.
What happens to people when you take away their social status and their professional status and their financial status? All that is taken away from them, and everything else, right down to what we typically think of as a sense of safety and enough food and enough sleep and all our connections to the typical circadian rhythms. Take all that away, and what happens?
The will to survive brought some crew members closer, others not. But fate would have it, all 16 rowers safely set foot on solid ground 53 days later in Barbados. Wilkins knew his next task was to write about the intense and soul-bearing experiences that happened during their journey. But how do you do it without offending someone? Little Ship of Fools definitely created waves amongst the group, but that is what the author does best.
What is in it for anybody if you don't try to convey a sense of what really happened out there, eh? So anyway, I set about to tell it like it was and did not sort of scrub off any of the grubby marks or the warts or anything, and that's what came forth. And so since the book came out, I have had some little kind of grating interactions with a few crew members, but some of them just plowed right through it and said, good, you know? And one of the more difficult crew members said to me at one time, his wife said to me, "Give it to him." So, I mean, I had encouragement to tell the story as it happened, yeah.